You were just on a panel about the new electricity era and why Canada is positioned to lead there. What are some of the largest issues facing our energy supply?
I think the big issue facing us in Canada is the number of jurisdictions involved in the oversight of energy supply. So you have 10 provinces that operate independently and develop their supplies independently. So the ability to trade across Canada is severely limited. In fact, the north-south connections between Canada and the United States are stronger than the east-west ties. So I think that's a significant issue that needs to be dealt with. I'm not talking about national energy policy, but I think there needs to be some more national view of the energy supply. I think the second thing, and more technologically, is the evolving supply mix that we see in places like Ontario, Quebec, but also British Columbia, even Alberta, where we're integrating a larger proportion of renewables, upwards of 20% in some jurisdictions. And renewables tend to be intermittent, so how we resolve intermittency with other base forms of generation, I think, is a technical challenge that we face, and our grids have been constructed in such a way as to deliver from centralized plants. Now we're talking about distributed generation, and how do we reconfigure the infrastructure that supports, in this case, electricity supply.
When it comes to the energy grid, a lot of times we read and hear about the idea of a smart grid and how our energy infrastructure should be smarter and know more about us and all these things. But what do you see as, where are we there with a smart grid, and where's Canada's place?
Well, at the big transmission level, Canada's grids are pretty smart to begin with. It's at the distribution level that they get less smart, if you will. And when we start talking about incorporating renewables, again, with intermittency being an issue, the wind blows when the wind blows, and not much you can do about that. The ability to integrate those kinds of renewables with customers' growing and changing demands is where smart grid starts to play the role. And it's not as much as about technology. The technology's there to implement those kind of controls on the system. It's now about how do you affect the behavior of individual consumers, whether they be industrial or institutional or residential, to take advantage of that so that we build a sustainable system. So smart grids are about allowing the consumers to interact effectively with the system, as opposed to just being able to turn on the lights when they want or receive a bill for it at the end of the month and then scratching their heads as to how did I happen to spend so much on electricity. Allow them to be day-to-day interactive, just like we are with our entertainment complexes. We can now pick from Netflix or Apple TV. Can we do the same for electricity and pick the form of generation that we want and when we use it and how we use it most effectively in terms of cost and environmental impact?